Yeah, it's nice.
No, you gotta have cash to get the food at Costco. I didn't get any cash. I took my cash out. So I have to go through the line first, and then I can get cash.
Painting the Modern Garden, Monet to Matisse. See over 100 garden-inspired masterpieces now through January 5th. Co-organized by the Cleveland Museum of Art and the Royal Academy of Arts in London. Supported in part by Baker Hostetler, Michelle and Richard Deschelnay, Cleveland Magazine, and the Federal Council on the Arts and Humanities. See clevelandart.org for advance tickets and extended hours.
This is the last week of the Kia Holidays All Best Sales Event at Bill Doherty Kia at Kia of Streetsboro. Hurry in today before the holidays are over.
We just got some little treats, Abigail. We got most of them were what, $3 or less, Jonathan? Is that right?
Yes.
I figure we'll just do like a little basket. Cause she doesn't really need anything, but just to give her some little treats and she can share with her family. We got her some cocoa. Probably nice to get her some tea, maybe some green tea. And just like a little comfort basket, comfort food basket. You know what I mean? And then I got that $20 Starbucks card I didn't use. Not the one I got for Christmas, but the one I got for some. What is this? I mean, what in the world? You have the right of way, sir. Oh, let me get out of here. You're just doing that to irritate the person. Put on your flashers. You need to learn to smile.
Those of us who live in the colder climates or in the rainier climates, can be more vulnerable to that because we need sunshine, to produce vitamin D in our life. And if we're vulnerable to that, we can purchase some sunlight, some sun lamps, things like that can help supplement that for us, or just make sure that we get out every day when it's sunny so that we can rejuvenate that part of our body, or go to Florida once or twice. I'm sure that helps. But it really does. I tend to do that. It has that as well. And it's very interesting. I was speaking last year in March, and it had just been like 3 weeks of horrible, cloudy, horrible weather, and all my clients started getting more and more depressed. And then we had a great Friday. It was sunny and it was beautiful. I spoke that Friday, and everybody was so excited and happy. It was just that sunshine that charged us all up. And so it does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. It's so funny. Speaking of glass half full or half empty, I'm a glass half full person. And well, let's move on to depression prevention. What are some things that those of us who are vulnerable to depression that we can build into our lives?
Okay, well, one of the very first things I think is so important is that we must take care of our body. I think sometimes we spiritualize everything, and we forget that we are a physical body, and when we neglect it, or we don't take care of it, we will experience more health issues. And so depression is one of those health issues that we will experience. And even now, I'm exhausted because of Christmas. I ate way too many sweets. I feel 5 pounds overweight, and I don't feel good. I didn't exercise over the holidays because of all that. And so you start to feel more blah, you start to feel more, grumpy. And so it's really important, if you want to build depression prevention into your life, that you take care of your body. And what that means is 3 things. One is that you exercise regularly. A real interesting study at Duke University found that people who did aerobic exercise for 30 minutes 3 times a week were just as successful at getting rid of depression as those who took antidepressant medication. But the more remarkable thing about that study was those who continued their exercise regime after getting off their medication were much less likely to relapse.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so exercise does play an important role in depression prevention. So exercise. Second, eat right. Stop eating so much sugar, processed foods, carbs, everything that we read about in the news. They tell you not to eat it because it's not good for your body. God has designed our bodies to function when we eat right. And so find your mood better, stop eating so much junk food and processed food, and you will feel better. Eat more protein, lean meats, carbohydrates, low fat, and then the third thing, and this will sound like a no-brainer, but actually we get, on average, 1 to 2 hours less sleep per night than our ancestors did 100 years ago. And so if you are tending toward depression, one of the things that you can do to take care of your body is make sure that you sleep enough, because sleep affects our mood and it affects our ability to cope with stress. And so sometimes we find ourselves crabby, irritable, and then that compounds other issues in our life, like feeling bad about ourselves because we didn't handle something well. And so exercise, eat right, sleep, take care of your body in those 3 ways. That's one thing that you can do to build some depression prevention into your life.
We're going to talk a little bit more, some other things we can do, but we're going to go to the phone. Stephanie's on the line.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead with your question.
I just have a lot of things going on in my life. I mean, about 3 or 4 years ago, I had a son that went through rehab. He went through 2 different rehabs. In the process, after rehab, he got his girlfriend pregnant. They have a baby now. They don't share the baby with us. It's like pulling teeth to get them to come over. And right after that happened, I had a husband that went through knee surgery and decided that he didn't feel comfortable talking to me because I was spending money, because it was the only thing that made me happy for a temporary moment. It did, and it caused a lot of troubles. We had to short sell our home. He was calling a nurse just to kind of talk with her, and it's just been horrible, and I cannot. He's apologized several times. I just can't get past it. I'm having trouble with my oldest son still. Thank heavens my youngest son is still communicating with me and, communicating with his dad and I, but he still is. I mean, our kids grew up in a Baptist church. We took them, they got older and did their own thing, and it's
A lot of family issues, huh?
yeah, it is. And I have genetic depression anyways I'm pretty sure from my dad, and I'm on medication now, but I can't. I had to quit a job, a really good job, about 6 months ago because I couldn't deal with any more drama in my life. And I don't know, I'm just not getting what I need. I don't think. I need a counselor, or I need something, and I pray all the time, and lately I don't even know how to pray, so I haven't been praying lately.
Lady, you need
I
to
don't know.
get out of
I
your
just
own
feel like I
world
need
and
something
start
more than just myself.
concentrating on
I
someone
know I
other
need
than
the Lord. I know
yourself.
that.
You are
And I have
self-absorbed.
Him. I know He's there for me. I just need some help other than that.
Stephanie, I'm glad you called. And Leslie, I would just add too that, we as followers of Christ, we know we have the Lord, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are quick fixes to these difficult family issues.
Well, no, there's not quick fixes, but one of the things that we need, and God says we need, is we need people. We need one another. He says that. It's not like, oh, I should just depend on the Lord and everything
There
is
you
well. He
go.
says
That's
that
what
we
he's
need
for.
one
The
another
middle
to
lane.
encourage
It's
one
called
another,
a
to lift one another up,
tryy.
to one another passages. And so, Stephanie, you are needing people, and you need some people who have some skills who can help you deal with the conflicting relationships that you have. One of the things that causes depression, especially for women, is high conflict relationships and high stress relationships. In fact, the National Institute of Mental Health says that the highest group of depressed women are those in unhappy marriages. And so I'm not saying that that's your case in terms of unhappy marriage, but you're in a place right now where your marriage is unhappy because of some of the choices that your husband has made and that you made and all those kind of things. And those are things that you need some help in dealing with so that you guys can come to a better place, because our positive relationships and our good relationships with people build resiliency into our soul life and into our spiritual life so that we can handle life stresses a little bit better. And so it's really important that you get yourself some people. I would encourage you to perhaps, even if you can't afford personal counseling, that you get some pastoral counseling, or that you find a group like Celebrate Recovery, something where you can join in and begin to work on some of these issues in your life so that you're becoming a stronger person and you're feeling like you have that support and that help available to you on a regular basis.
Stephanie, thank you for your call today. I appreciate it. And, I wanted to have you comment too, Leslie, on someone's comment on Facebook who mentioned well, she went through depression herself and has struggled, but she feels like a lot of people are afraid to reach out for help because they don't want the stigma attached to depression or to possibly have to use medication. Do you think that's still in play today?
I think it's a little bit in play. I don't think it's strongly in play. I think the church has been, over the last 5 years, much more accepting of people who struggle with some mental health issues, especially depression. I think that they're more willing to understand that there is no quick prayer or quick fix. A lot of churches are. Some churches are not. I do think that there is some other issues that people get tangled up with in terms of the diagnosis of depression if you go for treatment because of your job or because of life insurance, those kind of things.
Right.
I do think that you need to be careful when you're in that place that you talk to your doctor or your mental health provider about who's going to see the diagnosis and how that's going to impact your life. So I do think there's some of that going on, and we do need to be mindful of that and help people to understand that process, because sometimes if you've had a diagnosis of depression, it's harder to get life insurance and those things. So I think there is that part of people being afraid.
Okay. How does our thought life play a part in depression-proofing our lives?
Well, this goes back to the Facebook comment, is this just negative thinking? And our thought life does play a part in our emotional well-being. The Bible says in Psalm 55:2, for example, my thoughts trouble me and I am distraught. And so our thoughts do have a very close influence and link with our emotional life. And the real interesting thing about the scriptures is that he always tells us to fix our emotional life by going in through the back door of our thought life. And so we can't just say to someone who's feeling depressed, don't feel that way. But what we can do is we can begin to look at what they're telling themselves in terms of their thought life, like, I can never be forgiven, this will never change, God must be against me, I'm a failure, those kind of thoughts. And we can begin to say, wait a minute, let's look at what's true, what's good, and what's right, and let's get our mind focused on those things. Because we all have a choice about what we're going to let our mind meditate on. And when we let our minds meditate on everything that's wrong, and especially for those of us who tend toward the glass half empty, it's much easier to do that than those who tend to meditate on everything that's right. We tend to be more vulnerable to depression. But when depression hits, even an optimist can start to think negative thoughts, and so they really do need help in looking at your thought life. But if you want to build some depression prevention into your life, it is important for you to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ and listen to how you talk to yourself.
Straight out of Philippians 4:8, I think. Yeah.
Right, and most of us talk to ourselves, especially if we're prone to depression, in very negative ways. You're so stupid, I can't believe you did that, you're such a jerk, how can anybody like you? We say those things to ourselves. And it's real interesting, Anita, I was speaking on a topic of self-esteem, and I brought up a teenager in the audience, and I went through this exercise with them in terms of their self-talk, and I said, okay, so now I want you to say out loud to yourself, I'm a weak and worthless person. And she looked at me like I was nuts. She's not going to say that out loud. And what she did, though, is that she began to say it out loud. She cooperated with me, and as she began to say it out loud, she broke out, and I felt so bad for her, but she broke out into heavy, because just saying it out loud affected her emotions, and it touched something very deep inside of her. And so what we say to ourselves in our thought life plays a huge part in our emotional well-being. God says it, and we need to pay attention to that.
We're going to take our final break on Midday Connection, come back and conclude our conversation with Leslie Vernick on depression. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can manage stress, which is one of those things that certainly can lead us down that corridor of depression and relationships.
I won't.
This whole area of depression as well. We'll be back. You can find out more about our next step resource when you head to middayconnection.org.
A quick reminder that today's program was originally broadcast on January 3rd, 2012, so our phone lines are not open. The final segment of Midday Connection is just ahead.
It's time for Authentic Intimacy. Here's Dr. Julie Slattery. For the past few years, I've been using this term, sexual discipleship, to describe the passion behind the ministry of Authentic Intimacy. I've noticed that when people hear me put those two words together, they're intrigued. Although at some point you may have been discipled in your walk with Christ, chances are that discipleship never permeated questions about your sexuality. The church's general approach toward sexuality is to offer pockets of sex education. Let's compare that approach to how culture tackles the topic of sexuality. It's everywhere. Even godly, committed Christians are far more likely to think like the world does on sexual issues because they've been trained to do so. The church has offered education while the culture is sexually discipling us, forming our opinions and our worldview on everything sexual. Sexual discipleship is a lot more than a talk or a retreat teaching about sexual purity. It means walking with people through the journey of sexuality through all stages of life and addressing the questions that arise from life experiences and cultural pressures. Biblical sexual discipleship paints a complete picture of sexuality, not simply as something to avoid, but as a great gift to be treasured, celebrated, and reclaimed. At Authentic Intimacy, we want to invite women into a conversation that promotes this kind of sexual discipleship.
The Bible doesn't shy away from sexuality, and neither should we. Authentic Intimacy is shining a light where the devil wants people to remain in the dark. If you stand against pornography, against sex trafficking, abuse, and the worldly lies that continue about sex, will you stand with Authentic Intimacy? Support our ministry by logging on to AuthenticIntimacy.com. That's AuthenticIntimacy.com.
Today's Midday Connection with Leslie Vernick originally aired on January 3rd, 2012, so our phone lines are not available. Here now is Anita Lustria with the final segment of today's program.
As we've been talking about depression on Midday Connection today, you can take advantage of more that Leslie Vernick has for you. You can head to middayconnection.org and click on the link right there in the center section under the summary section in the bio of Leslie to head to her website where she has the depression test that you can take, and there's more information there on her homepage too for the next step resource that Leslie has written called Defeating Depression. Leslie, on Facebook, Kathleen says, how does one decide if it's depression or a side effect of a chronic illness?
Well, I think it can be both. I think that oftentimes chronic illnesses like multiple sclerosis, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and others, fibromyalgia, those kind of things, have depression as a side effect, but that is one of the things that also comes along with that illness. And so I think it's really important that you treat both. It's not just, again, just the physical side, just your body, but your emotions are being affected by your body not feeling well, and that goes together. So postpartum depression, yeah, all of that is affected by body and spirit, and they go together. It's not separate.
Let's talk about managing stress. Give us some things that we can do, because I think you mentioned earlier that's one of the avenues that can send us toward depression if we're not managing it well.
Well, I think one of the highest group of depressed women that I work with are people pleasers. And the reason, and they're really nice women, and I've written a newsletter about the high price of being too nice. Because people who cannot say no and are always trying to make everybody happy have to live with a lot of stress, because they can't ever make everybody happy, and so they're trying to juggle a million balls, and they don't know how to say no. And so one of the things I say to them, and I really want your audience to listen to this, because when you're doing, whatever you're doing, even good things, but when you're doing compromises your being, you're out of balance. And you are going to topple over if you don't get a grip on that. It's sort of like when you're in the red constantly financially. You know, you are overspending your resources, and it makes you stressed out, and it makes you crabby and irritable and grumpy. The same thing is true when you overspend your time and you overspend your energy. Time, money, and energy, those are our resources, and how we divvy them out says something about who we are. But if we constantly go in the red, constantly on the red with our energy, physical breakdown as well, mental health breakdown.
Oh, that's so sweet. What can I bring?
Say no.
Okay, yeah, we'd love to. Thank you. Tell her thank you very much. Okay. Oh, what time is dinner? Oh, 12:30 in the afternoon? Oh, 4:30. Okay, sorry. I didn't hear you. So 12:30, that's so, okay. All right, 4:30. Okay, I better write this down. Okay, all right, thank you, Cindy. We'll probably see you guys tonight for a little while. Yeah, we have a concert at church, and then we're going over Cousin Bernice's nieces. Well, her friend's house, Angie, I think you met her. And then we'll just stop there for a little while. All right, thank you. Okay, thanks, Cindy. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to Cindy's sister's house. Abigail.
Okay, that's nice.
We're about to go to class. We're going to Cindy's sister's house tomorrow at 4:30 for dinner. And then tonight, I don't think we'll go down to Akron Junction. I think we'll just go to we'll see Kim and Kim's family at Angie's house, their friend. And then we'll go to Uncle Mark's for Robin or something, okay? At least we got the Christmas decorations down. That's done.